All right, let's see a couple more examples. So number 7. So we want to solve the equation by completing the square. So we want to subtract 19 from both sides. By the way, this is not factorable, right? So even if we wanted to use factoring, there are no numbers that have a product of 19 that also have a sum of 14, right? Like the only numbers that are factors of 19 are 1 and 19, and if you add them together or subtract them, you don't get 14. So, all right. So anyway, I'm going to subtract 19 from both sides. So I'm going to get x squared minus 14x. Remember, I'm going to leave a little space here to complete the square. Equals negative 19, and then I'm going to add a little space here to complete the square, right? So what I want to put in there is p squared, right? And so p, remember, is equal to half of b. So it equals 7. You can think of it as negative if you want, because that's negative either way. But p squared is going to be positive 49, right? If I square 7 or negative 7, either way I get positive 49. Okay, so now I can factor this. I'm going to put an x here. This minus goes in here. And then inside here I want to put p. So remember, p is 7. So, or negative 7, however you want to think of it. Then on this side, negative 19 plus 49 is 30. All right, so now I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Don't forget the plus or minus. Square root cancels out a square. And so now we end up with x minus 7 all by itself equals plus or minus root 30. And remember, 30 there are no pairs that come out. There's no way to simplify it, right? The only thing that goes into 30 is 3 and 10 is 2 and 5. So they're all singles, no pairs. So we can't simplify that. So then I'm going to just keep this as is. I'm going to add 7 to both sides. And so I end up with x equals 7 plus or minus root 30. And that's as far as we can go, unless it says to round, right? If it said to round, then we would plug root 30 into our calculator, find that, and then we'd add it to 7 and subtract it from 7. But as it is, we just leave it like this. Okay, this is exact and as simple as we can get it, as simplified as we can get it. All right, let's take a look at number 8. So first thing, I want to get the constant over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 4 from both sides. And so we'll get x squared minus 2x. I want to leave room to complete the square here. And then equals negative 4. And then we're going to leave room to complete the square, right? So because we want to balance both sides. So I'm going to find p. P is equal to b over 2. So it'll be negative 2 over 2, which is negative 1. So p squared is going to be negative 1 squared, which is positive 1. So I put a 1 here and a 1 here, right? Now I can factor this right side into a square binomial. So it's going to be x minus, and then p was 1, right, or negative 1. So either way, it's going to be minus 1 equals, then on this other side, I get negative 4 plus 1, which is negative 3. All right. So this is one thing that's a little different, is now we have a negative 3. So if we take the square root of both sides, now we're taking the square root of a negative. And we all know what happens when we take the square root of a negative. We have to pop an I out. Okay. So what we're going to get is this, and this will cancel out. So we'll end up with x minus 1 on the left equals, and then we'll end up with plus or minus I root 3. And root 3 we can't simplify. So we just leave it like that, I root 3. Okay. So pop an I out. That makes inside positive. Now we're just going to add 1 to both sides. So we get x equals 1 plus or minus I root 3. And that's our final answer. And remember, that's actually 2 answers, right? And these are complex answers. right? Because we have a real number mixed with an imaginary number. So it's a complex solution, and we have two of them. So this graph actually wouldn't cross the x-axis, right? It looks like it's facing up, so that means the vertex is above and it's facing up, and so it'll never cross.